All right, welcome back, guys. We're now going to taxation of life insurance. Who would have thought this section would be so much in it? But it is. There's a lot of stuff in it. Important stuff, filler stuff. That's filler stuff that you need to kind of connect everything together. Taxation of life insurance amounts available to policy owners. Okay. All right. General rules. Premiums are not tax deductible on life insurance, okay? Premiums are not tax deductible on just your regular life insurance out there. The tax benefits, So premiums are not tax deductible. Death benefits are tax free if paid in lump sums to a named beneficiary. Think about that, guys. When somebody receives death benefit from a life insurance policy, it is received tax-free if the lump sum, if paid in a lump sum to the named beneficiary. If it's paid in a lump sum, it's tax-free. Next one, if death benefit is paid in installments, the principal portion is tax-free, but the interest earned is taxable. If the death benefit is paid in installments, then the principal portion is tax-free still, but the interest earned is taxable. That's a general rule. So the premiums you pay, you can't write it off, but the money received in a lump sum is tax-free. And if you get it in monthly installments then the original amount that you're supposed to be getting is tax-free, but any interest you make on that money is taxable. Let's look at policy dividends now. Policy dividends, not taxable since dividends paid on a participating policy are return of premium. So let's make sure we get this, we talked about this before, but just to make sure you got it down, you already got the general rule of it, right? What's the general rule is? The general rule is, I think I better write in blue so you can see it. That red is kind of hard to see. All right. The general rule is this right here. General rules with an S on it is that your premium the premium that you pay for your life insurance, premium for life insurance is not tax deductible. But guys, the death benefit you receive is tax free if you receive it in a lump sum. All right. To a named beneficiary, If the death benefit is paid in installments, then the principal portion is tax-free. If you receive it in installments, then the principal portion, the principal of, how much money you had in the first place, the principal of it is tax-free. The principal portion of it is tax-free still. But the interest you made on the money is taxable. Does that make sense to you? So if you put the money into an account and the insurance company is sending you a gradual amount, and you were supposed to get $100,000, but now they're pinning you every month $100,100, then the $100 you made that month on that money is taxable. The thousand, if you send you $1,000 a month and they put $100 more because you got interest, so that's $1,100 that you get in a month. So the $1,000 is not taxable, but the $100 is taxable. Okay, so any interest you make on the money is taxable. Okay. So if you got that down, and the death benefit portion is not taxable. The principal amount is not taxable. Now let's go to the policy dividends. Let's go with that. So all we're doing is trying to break down what part of that money, when people get it, is taxed. You know, it's not necessarily your job to tell people everything about the tax. You need to check with their tax accountants and everything, but you know, still, it's good to know about it. So if you get a dividend back on your policy, that dividend is what? What we said a dividend was? A dividend is a refund of overcharged premium. So if you get a dividend back on your life insurance policy, all you're getting is a refund of overcharged premium. They charged you too much and they're giving it back to you. You think you got a benefit, but all you did was just give you back your premiums. So you didn't make anything. So that money is not taxable because you only got your money back you paid in. You got it? So premiums are not taxable, since dividends paid in a participating policy or return of premium is all it is. Now you may ask, John, what are we talking about this participating policy? Now I think this may be on the front page. Let me show you something. So any policy that pays dividends, just as a test question, any policy that pays dividends, and what we said dividend is a refund of overcharged premium. But in order for a policy to pay a dividend, it got to be a specific type of policy. It's a par policy or a participating policy, okay? So a policy that pays dividend is a participating policy, okay? So any policy that pays a dividend is a participating policy, because you're participating in the dividend. You to get a chance to take part in the dividends that come back from the company. So any policy that pays a dividend is a participating policy. You could call it a par policy. It's a par policy or a participating policy. And those participating policies are owned by who? Remember that from the first chapter? It's owned, that type company, that participating company, that insurance company that pays those dividends, that company is owned by policy holders, okay? Policy holders. Or you could say policy owners. So if you get a dividend back, it's because you're part owner in the company, because you're a policy holder. And so they overcharge you and they give you back money if the company didn't lose any money. So any policy that pays dividends is a participating policy because you participate in the dividend structure, which means that it's owned by policyholders, which means what kind of company is that? Remember that? That's a mutual insurance company, okay? Or a mutual insurer. That's it. A mutual insurance company or a mutual insurer owns or issues participating policies. Participating policies pay dividends. And dividends just a refund of overcharged premium. So I'm just kind of tying in all this stuff because people will get this stuff confused. Just realize that that's one of the key things they use to confuse you. Dividends, you don't have to pay no tax on it because they're giving you a refund of your money back because they overcharged you. So the dividend is just a refund of what you paid too much of in the first place. And the policy that they use to pay those dividends are participating policies because you participate in the dividends. And the policy is issued by a mutual insurance company. You got it? Who are some mutual insurance companies? Like State Farm, Mutual of New York, Mutual of Omaha. Those are mutual insurance companies, okay? Northwestern Mutual, those are mutual insurance companies where the policyholders own the company because they have policies with the company. And because they participate in the dividend structure of the company. They get dividends. Legally, they can get dividends because they got dividends coming in from the company, okay? Anyway, but that's just the way it operates, okay? But don't get that dividend confused with dividends from stocks, okay? This is a particular use of dividends, okay? So now you got that down. I want to make sure you got that. So policy dividend, not taxable since dividends are paid on participating policies. Remember we said participating policies are policies that you participate in because you get dividends. And they're only issued by mutual insurance company. And the dividend is a refund of overcharged premium. Okay, good. All right, so we got that down. Hopefully so. All right, now what else we got here? Interest earned on the dividends left with the insurer to accumulate is taxable in the year earned, whether it's paid out or not. So if you leave money in a plan, so interest earned on dividends left with the insurer to accumulate is taxable in the year earned, whether it's paid out or not. So when you see one of your dividend options, guys, where you're learning, on the dividend options, one of the options is accumulate with interest. So you let your dividends accumulate in that account. So it's telling you that the interest that you're making on that dividend is taxable in the year that it's actually earned, not when it's paid out. So if you make money on that dividend, then you will do taxes that year, not next year. It's not just because you didn't take it out. If you earn dividends, you earn interest on your dividends, then it's taxable that year. So just know that. I just told you that, okay? So it's taxable in the year earned, whether it's paid out or not. They don't have to give it to you. You got to know to pay tax on that money that year. Okay, now. So we got policy dividends down. So I'm just going over taxation of life insurance. So you know what's taxable on the money paid out. You know the death benefit is not taxable, but any interest you make on the death benefit is taxable. You know with the dividend is not taxable because it's just a refund of premium. Any interest you make on the dividend is taxable. Now let's go to the cash value accumulation because these are just different parts of the policy that you get money from, okay? There's a cash value part of the policy too, right? Remember, this is the whole life policy here. I'm trying to see when you have a cash value policy, then you potentially can have to pay taxes on it. You take it out when you're 30, you keep it all the way to 100 years old. I mean, you can take it out at 22, okay, 21 years old, whatever age you can be. As long as it's a legal age, you can do it. And so let's say your death benefit is $100,000. See, this is your death benefit. This is why you bought life insurance. It's only really for the death benefit. That's the main reason why you buy life. You want the benefit in case somebody dies. That's a death benefit. But then at first you bought term insurance, right? It was very cheap. It was only $25 a month for that $100,000 when you were 30 years old. But guess what? What happened is they invented cash value. So they just put a cash value in this thing. So okay, let's let your money build up. In the policy, okay, good. And that $100,000 costs like $125 a month. So it's like $125 a month you're paying for that now. So whenever you put the cash value in it, this is where your cash value builds up, okay? The cash value builds up there. So you don't have any money in the policy at first. By the time you get 50 years old, you probably got $15,000 in that policy. By the time you get 65 years old, let's say you got about $40,000 in the policy. By the time you get like 99 years old, you got $99,000 in the policy. See how the cash value builds up? So the cash is building up in your policy. And then once that cash value equals to be 100 years, once you get 100 years old, your cash value now is equal to be $100,000. You see at that point. So when this cash equals the same as the face amount, the policy is matured. And you ain't got to pay no more premiums anymore. They just give you $100,000 in cash value. Okay, because they can't charge anymore because your cash value is paying the whole $100,000, so they can't charge you anymore because they're not giving you anything. So a policy matures at age 100 because the cash value is at 100,000, so you can't pay any more premiums because the cash value will pay the death benefit, so they can't charge you anymore at that point. So anyway, the cash value is the next thing we're going to look at for taxation. Cash value accumulation in the policy. The cash value grows tax deferred. So you don't have to pay any tax on this cash value until you take it out. Unless you got to cancel the policy to take it out, then you're taxed on it because that's your money when you cancel it. If you surrender the policy or cancel the policy, any cash value that exceeds the amount of premiums paid is taxable as ordinary income. You say, how you figure that out, John? Well, basically this right here. If you're paying $125 a month for this policy, that means you're paying $1,500 a month, right? Is what you're paying. If you pay that for like 10 years, then that's 1,500 times 10, that's 15,000 you paid in. You got it? You pay it 20 years, then you paid $30,000. That's how you figure out whether you got to pay taxes. So if you surrender the policy, any cash value that exceeds the amount of premiums paid is taxed as ordinary income. So let's say you paid $15,000 over 10 years, and you decide to, but this is 20 years, right? Let's say now in 20 years you got instead of 15, let's say you paid for 20 years, that means you paid in $30,000. If you got $30,000 and then your cash value is just $15,000, so anything above what you paid in, then you won't have to pay no tax on. Okay, that's the way you figure it out. So anything above what you paid in, you got to pay taxes on. So, but this is just an estimation how much cash value could be in there. It could be more than this, right? Let's say in this case that, well, we just leave it like that. But so anything above, here's your tax. If you surrender your policy, any cash value that exceeds the amount of premiums paid is taxed as ordinary income. Just know that. If you put in $15,000 with that period of time, but let's say your cash value is like $40,000, or let's say it's $20,000. If your cash value is $20,000, but you paid in $15,000, you got to pay tax on the difference of $5,000. You see what I mean? So that's how you figure it out. So on the 10th, if they ask you, say you paid in $15,000 with a premium, your cash value is $20,000. Then you know if you paid in $15,000, but your cash value is $20,000. Then $15,000 of what you paid in, so anything above $15,000 is taxable. That's it. And that's it on that. So you're just trying to figure out how every portion is taxed so that you as a professional will know, and you can, you let them check with their tax plan, but at least you got a general idea of what they should get, but have them check with their tax accountant also on that. All right, now, let's go down to policy loans. See how you're going to be taxed on that. Let's go to policy loans. This is good information for you to kind of know this. Loans are not income taxable. Okay, so loans are not income taxable. So you borrow money, they can't charge you. If you borrow money from the policy, you get it tax free until you cancel your policy. Okay, so you don't have to pay no tax right now. That's why people sometimes would do that, because they get around. They got a loan, they borrowed money, and they got to pay anything, but they get paying interest back to the company, right? So but that makes it attractive to be able to get a loan. But remember now, that's your money you're borrowing. So don't get too excited about borrowing your own money. Just because you can get it tax deferred or tax free. So now here's a surrender. If the policy is surrendered, some of the cash value received some of the cash value received may be taxable as income if the cash surrender value exceeds the amount of premiums paid. So the cash surrender value if it exceeds the premium that you paid, then the amount that's above what you paid in is taxable once you surrender the policy. Here's another thing. Okay, so accelerated death benefit, tax-free up to a certain amount. So if you let's say that you're about to die, but you haven't died yet, but they gave you an accelerated death benefit. They gave you the money before you left. So it's tax-free up to a certain amount. So you got to check with your tax person to find out what that certain amount is. Because let's say he got $100,000. He knows he's going to die in 6 months, but they gave him like 40% of that money right now because he's dying. So he can go on a trip around the world with his family. He gets $40,000. That's not taxable because he's going to get his family going to get $100,000 after he dies. But they gave him some before. So that's basically going to be tax-free. And but it's up to a certain amount. But you have to check with your tax person on that. They don't want to get into that. We don't want to get into that either because it's kind of nitpicky, okay? So now let's look at the amount received by beneficiary, the general rule on that. So we talked about how your cash value is not taxable but if you got more money in cash value than you paid in, then anything above what you paid in is taxable, okay? Accelerated death benefit, that's when you can accelerate. If the person's going to be dying soon, we'll give you money before you pass away. We give you 40% of the money or whatever percent we promise before you die. You know, if you get it, if you know you're going to be dying in 6 months and you want to go on a trip around the world, we give you part of it now so you can take the trip and the rest of the money be paid after you pass away. Okay, that's the way it's paid out. The amount received by the beneficiary. The general rule on that. The general rule on that is free of federal income taxes if taken as a lump sum, unless there is a transfer of value. The policy is sold to another party prior to death. That could be some sort of thing there. It's federal income tax free when you get in the lump sum, unless there's a transfer of value. The policy is sold to another party prior to the death. So then if it is, don't worry about them asking you a question on that. That's too complicated. They're not going to get into that. But if you get but the general rule is though, if you die and you get money from a death from a life insurance policy, it should be tax free. Now let's look at settlement options. When payments consist of both settlement options, when payment consists of both principal and interest, the interest portion of the payment is received is taxable as income. So whenever you get portions coming from the insurance company, what happens is any money that's received on the money is taxable, but the principal portion is not taxable, okay? I think that makes sense. We're not too far from finishing the tax part now. Let's look at group life insurance so you can know this. This is important also because see, when people have group life insurance, they say, well, I got a group policy and I'm going to leave all that to my wife. I ain't got to get an individual policy. I want to save some money. Let me tell you this about these group life insurance policies. They're tax deductible to the employer as a business expense. So if your employer is paying all the fees for you, it's tax deductible to the employer as a business expense because they pay for your life insurance or your health insurance or whatever, because they're group life and employer sponsored plans. If a group life policy coverage is $50,000 or less, the employee does not have to report the premiums paid by the employer as income, not taxable to the employee. So if the group life policy coverage is $50,000 or less, the employee does not have to report the premium paid by the employer as income. So it's not taxable. So like if you got a $50,000 policy or less and the company is paying for it, then the company, you as an individual, you don't have to report what they pay for your insurance as taxable. When the business pays a premium for any of the following arrangements, the premiums are not tax deductible, okay? So, if the policy, group life policy, $50,000 less, the employee does not have to report the premiums paid to the employer as income. Now, let's say they're paying for $200,000. Then the employee does have to report the premiums paid by the employer as income that they received, because they received income on a policy that was more than $50,000. Anyway, I just want to make sure you know that. So when the business pays the premium for any of the following, like arrangements, the premiums are not deductible. So let's say the employee, when the business pays the premium for any of the following arrangements. All right, let's say that your company pays for a key employee, key person insurance policy. Then he can't deduct his premium. Okay, it's an expense. The company is paying for it, but it can't be deducted as a business expense, because when that person dies, he gets all the money tax free. The stock redemption or entity purchase agreements. So if you got some sort of stock redemption plan or entity purchase agreement, you can't write that off. All right? Or of a split dollar insurance, like when they're paying part, you paying part of it. They can't write that off either. Okay, can't, like he's paying part for no, you can't write that off. So if you got those type plans, you can't write that off at all. All right, now cash value accumulates on a tax deferred basis and is taxed in the same manner as an individual owned policy. So if you have a group, if you have a some sort of whole life policy that the company is paying for you as a group plan, then what happens is it's taxed in the same manner as an individual life insurance policy. So anything above what you paid in is taxable, because that's a gain for you. Let's look at the policy loans, group life policy loans. Policy loans are not taxable to a business because they didn't borrow the money. So unlike an individual policy, a corporation may deduct interest on a life insurance policy loan, on a policy loan for loans up to $50,000. So unlike individual taxpayers, corporations may deduct interest on life insurance policy loans for up to $50,000. So if a company owns a policy, they decide to take some money out of there, then they may deduct the interest that they have to pay. But on an individual policy, you don't have to. On an individual policy, then the corporation can do that. Let me just look at this, kind of strange here. Unlike an individual taxpayer, a corporation may deduct interest on a life insurance policy loans for up to $50,000. If you have an individual policy and then you had a loan up to $50,000, you can't write this off your taxes, okay? Because it's a loan, okay? And you're paying interest back to the company, but you can't write that off, but the company can write it off. The death benefit, receive income tax-free by the beneficiary. Who's the beneficiary is, they get that money tax-free. That's why the premiums paid on these type policies, you can't write them off, simply because they're not a write-off, because you can't write them off because you get the money from it tax-free, so you can't even put down that write this off because I'm paying this policy on this guy. You can't write it off. If you do write it off, you can't get the full benefits of the policy because you wrote it off, okay? So let's look at group benefits premiums. So the premiums for group life policy tax deductible to the employee as a business expense, all right? But if the group policy coverage is $50,000 or less, then the employee does not have to report the premiums paid by the employer as income. But anything above $50,000, you got to report the income paid. You got to report that it's taxable. You're supposed to report it as taxable because it's telling you right now on this. If you've got a policy for $300,000 by the company, they're paying it all. Then any money that they're paying for that above that is actually you have to report that as income that you received, okay? But when a business pays a premium for any of the following, like a key band policy, a key employee policy, or a stock redemption plan, or a split dollar plan, when he does that, he can't write that off because he gets the money from that. Since he's the owner of that policy, he gets all that money, the death benefit, tax-free. So he can't write off the premiums. The premiums can't be deducted by a business, okay? You got it? And on the cash value, you accumulate cash value accumulates tax deferred and are taxed in the same manner as an individual policy. So even if you got a group policy and the person owns it, the company owns it, it's taxed the same way as an individual owned policy is taxed. Now, what about policy loans again? The policy loans are not taxable to a business, okay? So not taxable to a business. So, but the thing is, unlike the individual taxpayer, a corporation can actually borrow money and they can actually deduct the interest that they're paying out to their company because they got a loan of $50,000 or more. And the death benefit, what about that one? The death benefit received by the company is received tax-free. Okay, good. Now we got that straightened out. And I don't think you'll see a whole lot of this, but that's just a little meticulous part about life insurance and how it's actually taxed to it and to, an employer gets a benefit for borrowing money from a whole life policy. So he can deduct that from his taxes and everything. All right. That's what they're saying. But the death benefit is still received tax-free. Now, let's look at modified endowment contracts. You probably heard about that. That's MECs, modified endowment contract. Let's put that on there. Let's look at modified endowment contracts. The initials for that is MEC. That's a MEC, modified endowment contract. So what is a modified endowment? It's the way you can tell a modified endowment contract, it has to fit the 7-pay test. 7-year pay test. PAY test. Let me tell you what that means. If the cash value in a policy builds up faster than a 7-pay whole life policy, the policy fails the 7-pay test and becomes a MEC. So if a cash value in a policy builds up faster than a 7-pay whole life policy, the policy fails the 7-pay test and becomes a MEC. A MEC is an overfunded life insurance policy. Once the policy becomes a MEC, it will always be a MEC, which means it doesn't get the tax qualifications that a normal whole life policy would get. So the cash value cannot build up faster than a 7-pay whole life policy. You may say, what's a 7-pay whole life policy? A 7-pay policy is a policy that you pay up in 7 years, okay? If it builds up faster than a 7-pay policy, it's considered to be a MEC. So you can have a 10-pay policy, right, which pays up in 10 years. You got a 7-pay policy, which pays up in 7 years. If it builds up faster than a 7-pay policy, boom, it's a MEC, okay? So a MEC is an overfunded life insurance policy is what it is. A modified endowment contract is an overfunded life insurance policy, one that is where the money goes in as one lump sum. You can like you got a single premium whole life policy. They ain't nothing but a MEC, right? Because the money went in all at one time. Boom, it's a MEC. So once a policy becomes a MEC, it's always a MEC. What's a MEC? Modified endowment contract. It's overfunded. It fails the 7-pay test because the money built up faster than a 7-pay policy. So look, let's go on MEC taxes. When a policy becomes a MEC, it loses all of its standard life insurance tax benefits. Tax rules that apply to MEC cash value. Accumulation grows tax deferred. Distributions are taxable, including withdrawals. So distributions are taxable automatically, including withdrawals and deposit loans. Check it out. Distributions are taxable, including withdrawals on policy loans. They're taxable too, even though you have a loan. Distributions are taxed on the first in. Distributions are taxed on last in, first out. So interest is withdrawn first. So therefore, you got to pay taxes on it because you took out interest. Another point on the MEC program is distribution before age 59 and a half are subject to 10% penalty. So distribution before 59 and a half are subject to a 10% penalty. Ooh, they even give you a penalty on that. So you have a MEC policy and you're not 59 and a half, you take it out before 59 and a half, you get a 10% penalty on that. Plus the interest distribution are taxed on a last in, first out basis. Last in, first out. So you put all that money in there and you take it out first. So the interest is drawn out first. So you're gonna be taxed on pretty much everything you take out of that policy. And distributions are taxable, including withdrawals and policy loans distributions are taxable, including withdrawals and policy loans are taxable too. Wow, even policy loans are taxable. Accumulation grows tax deferred. So the accumulation does grow tax deferred. But you take any money out, boom, before 59 and a half, you got the penalty. You can't just use a whole life policy for that purpose. Okay? Anyway, that's how you form a MEC. All right, now what's a MEC again? That's a modified endowment contract. If it builds up money faster than a 7-pay policy, you say, John, what are you talking about? Look, see, this is a whole life policy here. Okay? Whole life builds up cash value like this as it gradually builds up. But if you have let's say you have like a 10-pay policy. Let's say you pay it up, you were 30, you pay it up by 40. Because this is a 10-year period of time. You're paying premium that you should have paid between 40 and 100. You're paying some of those premiums. You're paying some of that money right now. And by doing that, by you paying for 10 years, instead of you paying normally, you're paying the normal amount plus all the premiums you should have paid over here, you're paying them in 10 years. So instead of paying $125 for this policy a month, you're paying $1,000 a month for this policy. So therefore, the cash value in 10 years, let me see, you put $1,000 a month, that's $12,000 for 10 years. That's $120,000. You put $120,000 in that policy. Oh yeah, it's $12,000. Yeah, $12,000, 10 years. That says policy is like $300,000 or whatever. And then you put in $125,000, then your cash value should have been here in 10 years, but it's up here as $125,000. And if it's a 7-pay policy, that means you're paying it up in 7 years. Instead of paying it up by 40, you're paying it up by 37 years old, which means you're paying like maybe $1,200 a month, right? So now, in 7 years, you got $125,000. In other words, your money's building up faster than it would have built up in a 7-pay policy. So therefore, they call it a MEC, and you lose all your tax benefits. So you could have all the money build up tax deferred, but if you take any money out, they're going to tax you on it, and they're also going to penalize you for taking any money out before 59 and a half, okay? So it's going to be a 10% penalty, anything before 59 and a half. And plus, whatever you take is last in, first out, and they're going to tax you on everything you take out. They're going to tax you on the loans. The money still would grow tax deferred, but any money you're taking out, they're going to tax you on it. That's a MEC, okay? So now you know what that is. And now, since we are real close to finishing everything up, we're going to just go over we got 2 more little concepts. Social Security benefits. So you can know that. So we got a little room left here we can write in here. Social Security benefits, okay? Social Security benefits. Let's do this here right here. Social Security. That's based on that. Okay, now Social Security benefits. Social Security benefit. Supposed to get that at 65, right? Also known as the old age survivors disability insurance. So, okay, look. So the Social Security benefit is also known as the old age that's OA survivor, SURVIVOR, old age survivors, disability insurance. Old age survivors, disability insurance. That's OASDI. You ever seen it on your tax, on your check stub? That's what they're talking about, OASDI. That's old age survivors, disability insurance. So, the types of benefits provided. So, types of benefits provided. Types of benefits provided. All right, here's what it provides. It provides disability. What does disability mean? That means you can't work. You're disabled, so it provides a benefit for that. It provides survival benefits, so in case you die, you'll leave money to your survivors so they can live, because somebody's got to take care of them, especially if they're dependent. It also provides a retirement. That's why people are looking for that Social Security check. They provide a retirement. They provide money to a surviving, like when kids have their father that die early and they've been paying taxes. So what happens is then that child can get a check from the government, right? Because he's a survivor of his father who died. And also, you can get a check for disability too. So that's also provided by the government. So it's a disability check. You dead and you leave your child, or you retire, you get a check. That's where that comes from. We got that? Not bad. So now you know what Social Security benefits, another name for this old age survivor disability insurance. Old age survivor disability. So old age means you're going to get a retirement. Survivor, that's for the survivor. Disability means you become disabled, you get money. That's why it's old age survivor. You get a check for old age, OA, check for S for survivor, check for disability incomes, OASDI. So now you know where the three checks come from. You ain't got to even memorize. You know what OASDI, if you know what that Social Security stands for, old age survivor disability income, then you know they get money for being old age, means 65 or more, right? Survivor, somebody died and left a survivor, so the wife may get a check, or at least the kids for sure will get a check. And disability income, that means that, somebody died from a disability. I mean, not died, they just disabled. They may get a check for that too. That's why the government will give a check out for those three things. Now, the last thing on this thing is called, let's look at this right here. Last thing on this is insured status. Insured, INSURED, insured status. Here's where that goes. Fully insured if you got 40 quarters of coverage. You're fully insured if you got 40 quarters of coverage. That means 10 years of work. If you put in 10 years of work, you're entitled to receive Social Security retirement. If you don't have 10 years of work in, you can't get it. You got to have at least 40 quarters. 40 quarters is See, a year got 4 quarters in it, right? 3 months, 3 months, 3 months, 3 months. January through March, April through June, July through September, and October through December. That's 4 quarters. If you work for 10 years, that's 4 quarters in a year times 4, that's 40 quarters. Then you get entitled to receive full Social Security retirement, Medicare, and survivor benefits. That means Medicare and survivor benefits, okay? If you're currently insured or partially insured, currently insured or partially insured, 6 quarters of coverage during a 13-quarter period, only entitled to some benefits. So if you got, currently insured or partially insured, 6 quarters of coverage during a 13-quarter period, only entitled to some benefits. So if you don't got 40 quarters, you don't get full benefits. I'll probably look up more on this stuff, but that's basically all it's saying. It says currently insured or partially insured, you got 6 quarters of coverage. 6 quarters means you got a year and a half, right? Currently insured or partially, you get 6 quarters of coverage during a 13-quarter period. Only entitled to some benefits. I don't know more than that, but anyway, that's basically it. If you don't have 40 quarters, you don't get full coverage. You get 6 quarters of coverage during a 13-quarter period. It's only entitled to some benefits, okay? You gotta have 6 quarters out of 13. Then in 13 quarters is, what is that? That's at least 3 years, a little bit more than 3 years. All right, so basically, we've done it on that, guys. That was pretty good. And then what we'll do is we'll probably send you off. We got a test that we'll send you off to fill out and see whether you can answer all these questions correctly. But we've covered all of the stuff in Chapter 4 on retirement and other insurance concepts. Hope you enjoyed that. Hope you picked up a lot of good information. It was fun. And at least now we know what OSDI stands for. That's Social Security benefit, right? Social Security benefit stands for Old Age Survivors Disability Insurance. And if you know what that stands for, you can just circle the 3 and that shows what they pay. They pay for old age, 65. They pay for survivor who's left after somebody died. And they pay for disability for you too. So that's basically it. Disability, survivor, retirement. That's it. And to have full benefit, you got to have at least 40 quarters in. And so thank you for listening. And good luck on studying for your exam, okay? I know you'll do well. The passing score is only 65 in Mississippi. So take advantage of that and pass. And don't just pass with 65, though. Pass with 100, okay? All right, and if you break down your words, like I was showing you how you look up your words, you'll do a lot better. Because you don't think you can fake it. You can't just keep reading and you don't look up the words because you don't know what you read. It's like you just gave yourself a mystery. You're not into mysteries in this thing. You're looking for being in the light. Anything that's in a mystery is in the darkness. And dark things don't prosper here, okay? I'm talking about in the dark type stuff. Secret things don't prosper here. We want things in the light, down up front, and people know about them. No secrets. No secrets except for keeping people's information private. But everything else, ain't no secrets, guys, because you got to do it right. Otherwise, you're gone, okay? All right. Thank you very much for listening. Hope you enjoyed this. And, we're just going to keep doing it until people get it. And we just got to help the people out there, guys, because people are suffering so much right now. They're suffering big time. They need our help. Let's give them the help, guys. We can do it. We're trying to change the world. And you change the world by having knowledge about what you're doing. You can't just be out there faking it. You need to know what you're doing. Let's change the world. Let's teach people how much insurance they need. Because they're buying the wrong type. They're buying sometimes the wrong amount. You need more than $10,000. That's in the old days. I mean, even back before they had $5,000 policy. Now, average funeral now is like $15,000 to $20,000 now. So let's get the proper coverage. Let's give them the amount they need for like 10 years if we possibly can. And just help the people, guys. That's what it's all about, is helping people. Thank you.